having a conversation now with a devotee in Croatia named Hanuman Das, and his idea is we need to make ISKCON great again. And that sounds like a wonderful idea. How are we going to do that? How will ISKCON become great again? What is the plan? And his first plan is we cannot adopt the system of worshipping Prabhupada as the current Acharya, because that, according to him, is not in the tradition. We need to follow the tradition of the Parampara system. And what is the tradition he follows? He says that Sridhar Swami, who was a voted-in GBC guru and who was a best friend of Tamal Krishna Goswami, is a bona fide guru. And he's bona fide, apparently, because he endorsed the idea that Prabhupada had appointed successors. Sridhar Swami, not Sridhar Maharaj of the Gaudiya Math, we can't confuse the two. There's Sridhar Maharaj of the Gaudiya Math, and there's Sridhar Swami of ISKCON, who was a GBC voted-in so-called Acharya, or Diksha Guru. So he seems to be supporting the idea that Prabhupada made a big mistake. He appointed unqualified people as his successors. And that is what Sridhar Swami promoted. He promoted the idea that Prabhupada had appointed 11 guru successors. Of course, when we asked for the evidence, where were these 11 gurus appointed? There doesn't seem to be any. Not only that, it doesn't seem like these 11 people were able to follow the process very well. Therefore, they were not gurus in any event. Even if they had been appointed to be acharyas, they couldn't follow the standard of acharyas. And the first thing they did, in fact, was they went to Sridhar Maharaj, not Sridhar Swami of ISKCON, but they went to Sridhar Maharaj of the Gaudiya Math and made him their Shiksha Guru advisor. Later on, even they admitted that was a deviation. So they all went along with that deviation for many years. For many years, Sridhar Maharaj of the Gaudiya Math was the advisor to the GBC. Later on, the GBC said, Sridhar Maharaj is a demon, he's unauthorized, he's trying to usurp ISKCON, he's trying to take disciples from ISKCON and make them into his own followers, and so on and so forth. So they made a mistake right out of the gate, according to themselves. So gurus, acharyas, don't make such mistakes. They don't go to false authorities and false advisors. That's not what gurus are doing. So right out of the gate, they're making mistakes, and they even admit they're making mistakes. So they were not acharyas. They were not appointed as acharyas. They did not behave like acharyas. They appointed the wrong people as their advisors, and so on and so forth. And yet Sridhar Swami thought this is a guru parampara. And he himself was voted into that parampara. So now Hanuman Das says, well, a guru is bona fide. It doesn't matter if he's voted in or not voted in. Well, that may be, but a guru is not voted into a bogus guru parampara. A parampara which is promoting illicit behavior as is acharyas. No previous acharya was voted in to a guru parampara which contains sexual predators, drug addicts, and deviants. That is not something that acharyas get voted into, nor do they participate in such paramparas, nor do they promote such paramparas like Sridhar Swami did. He was a big promoter of Tamal and the GBC Guru program. So this is not what acharyas are doing. But it's not just acharyas. Even in ordinary people on the street, they don't promote a guru parampara which contains sexual predators, drug addicts, and criminals and deviants. They don't promote that. They know that God's successors are pure, have to be pure, and every single link in the pure chain going to God has to be also pure. We can't say some of the links are pure, some of the links are rusty, some of the links are rotten, some of the links are garbage. No, the links in the chain all have to be equally pure and equally strong to become part of a chain. And that's true in any chain. You know, the chain that holds up the anchor of a giant ocean liner, every link has to be equally strong, equally the same. If you put in a bunch of thread in there and made a link out of that, it wouldn't work. So each link is as pure as the other links. And Sridhar Swami says some links are pure, some links are not pure, some links are falling apart, some links are garbage, and so on and so forth. So that is not the correct understanding of a chain, even an ordinary mundane chain. We cannot make a chain that has falling apart links. That's not how it works. And the GBC had a reform, and in the reform, they voted in a bunch of gurus, like Sridhar Swami. Okay, wait a minute, what is a guru reform? That itself is an oxymoron. You can't say guru and reform. That is not how it works. We don't have gurus who need to go to reform school. If you need to go to reform school, you're a criminal, you're a deviant, you're not a guru. So Sridhar Swami supported the guru reform, and he was himself voted in during the guru reform.
Now, the guru reform itself was very controversial at the time, 1986, because they reinstated a known sexual deviant who was having sex with taxi drivers as the Acharya. So they knew this person was a deviant, and they reinstated him back in the post of Vishnupad Acharya. And the people who reinstated this deviant are the same people who voted Sridhar Swami in as the guru of ISKCON. So what kind of people are your voting group here? And at the same time, why are you taking a certification from these people in the first place? Simultaneously, these people excommunicated Sulochan, and they said he was deviating because he was criticizing a pure devotee named Kirtanananda. So, in other words, they reinstated one known deviant as the Acharya, and they reasserted another deviant as the Acharya. And that same group is the group that voted Sridhar Swami in as guru. Of course, at the same time, they voted in, say, for example, Gaur Govinda Swami. And we have people even now who say, well, yeah, all the rest of them are rotten, but Gaur Govinda was a pure devotee amongst the group. All the rest of them were rotten, except Sridhar Swami was a pure devotee in the group. All the rest of them were rotten, but Satsvarup was a pure devotee. All the rest of them are rotten, but Hridayananda is a pure devotee. So we hear this all the time. The whole group is bogus, but one of them is authorized and saintly and is pure. But that really doesn't make any sense. There's never been a group of deviants where an Acharya joined that group and was certified by that group, and he upheld that group and promoted that group. And Sridhar Swami many times defended Tamal. Gaur Govinda stood up and defended Tamal. And of course Bhavananda defended Tamal, and so on and so forth. So they're part of that group, they're defending each other, but the person doing that defending of the rest of the group is really not part of the group. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. If you would go to court and say, yes, I was in the car with the bank robbers, yes, I was helping drive the car for the bank robbers, but I have nothing to do with the bank robbers, you wouldn't get very far with that argument. You're part of that group, you're with that group, you're promoting and supporting that group, so you are that group. So that is what happened. Now, the next issue that comes up, I told Hanuman that Prabhupada had said we neophytes cannot absorb sins. We cannot be Diksha Gurus and absorb sins, and if we do, we will be badly affected. Prabhupada said we would get sick or fall down or both. And Hanuman says, well, there's no proof that that's a problem. Well, if we look at the 11 original gurus, every single one of them got very sick or fell down or died prematurely. All of the 11 had major problems from absorbing sins. And when their gurus get sick, their followers send out a message, pray for Guru Maharaj, he's sick because he has taken too many sins. But Prabhupada said, you're not authorized to take these sins. And Hanuman says there's no evidence that that's a problem. What? It's not a problem? All these people are getting sick, they're falling down, that's not a problem. And they're dying prematurely, that's not a problem. Well, what is a problem then? If you were selling a product where most of the people who took the product got sick or fell down into some horrible deviations or they died prematurely, you would not be allowed to sell that product. It's even common sense. If something is causing so much disturbance, it's not a good product. So these guys had no authority to take these sins. Now when two women were having their feet touched when Prabhupada was here, we had these programs in India, a Pandal program, where people would come up and try to touch our feet. And when Prabhupada saw that two of his female disciples were getting their feet touched, he became very angry and he got off his seat, he went up and he waved his arms around and he chastised those ladies. He says, do not let people touch your feet. Because if you do that, you'll be acting like a Diksha Guru, you'll be taking their sins, and it will make you sick or make you fall down. It will affect you. You are not qualified to absorb the sins of other people. It will take you down. And it has taken down many of these gurus. And Hanuman himself is famous for writing about all the deviations that these gurus are involved in. They have a secretary, they're falling down, they have a drug problem, they're sahajas, they're so many things. Well, that is one of the results that Prabhupada said would happen. If you take sins without authority, it will cause you to deteriorate. And this is also stated in the Nectar of Instruction. A person who imitates the Acharya will eventually become degraded. Not maybe, not possibly, he will. But anyway, we are very pleased, that Hanuman has come some of the way. He's come some way down the road. He does understand 99% of the problem. He understands that 99% of the GBC Guru process is bogus. He's just hanging on to this one departed person, Sridhar Swami. But what's very ironic here is he's saying we can't worship a departed person like Prabhupada. That's bogus. You can't worship a departed person. That's not the parampara. So we need to worship another departed person named Sridhar Swami. Wait a minute. Does that make any sense? We can't worship a departed person, but he can worship a departed person. So he's better than us. We're not authorized to worship the departed person, but he is. That really doesn't make any sense. And we find this all the time. The Gaur Govinda people, same thing. Well, you can't worship Prabhupada, he's departed. But we are going to worship Gaur Govinda. Well, wait a minute, he's departed. Well, yeah. You can't worship Prabhupada, he's departed, but we're going to worship Narayan Maharaj. Well, wait a minute, isn't he also departed? Well, yeah, he is. So these people are really spinning in circles right now. When their guru was here, they had a big argument. Our guru is here. He's breathing, he's living. Never mind, he's supporting the corrupt GBC and their bogus guru system. But he's living. So therefore he's a guru. But now that he's departed, we can continue to worship our departed guru, but you cannot worship Prabhupada because he's departed. So this is really hypocrisy on the highest level. Even some of my mundane friends, when I tell them this phenomena, they're amazed. You can't worship your guru because he's departed, but we can worship our guru. Never mind, he's also departed. But wait a minute, our guru has written all the books, and our guru has established the whole process of Krishna consciousness. So maybe worshiping our guru is the better idea. Then Hanuman says that our idea makes no sense, which many times the GBC followers say the same thing. Well, if it makes no sense, why are so many people following it and adopting it? Why is it that it's very attractive and we're getting thousands of people to worship Prabhupada? Now, if the idea makes no sense, Why are people attracted to it? If the idea of worshiping Jesus makes no sense, why is that the biggest religion on the earth? They're worshiping a departed guru. They're worshiping Jesus. That doesn't make sense. Well, what should we do instead? We shouldn't worship Jesus. Should we worship these imitation people who think they're Jesus, who are in the Bellevue mental home? We should worship somebody who thinks they're Jesus? Or should we worship Jesus? Should we worship Jesus or an imitation of Jesus? So I think it's pretty obvious. Our idea is more attractive because we're saying don't worship the imitation. You have to worship the original item. Anyway, he seems to be trying somehow or other to revive the GBC Guru process. It's just not going to work. And at other times he has promoted Bhakti Vikas Swami. Now, I don't have this verified, but I was told that Hanuman's wife is initiated by Bhakti Vikas Swami. I don't know. He's refusing to answer that question. But we do know that Hanuman has promoted some of Bhakti Vikas Swami's writings. Well, Bhakti Vikas Swami is another guy who's voted in by the reinstators of sex with taxi driver gurus. And he's a big supporter of Jayapataka and the Mayapur regime. The Mayapur regime is where much of the corruption has gone on, including a lot of the child abuse. And there's photos of Bhakti Vikas, with his head on the lap of Jayapataka. So he's a big supporter of the big GBC leaders, Bhakti Vikas Swami. Does that make him a bona fide authority? Why? And recently, many ex-students from ISKCON who had big problems in those schools are chastising Bhakti Vikas Swami for his continued support of the regime which oppressed these children. He's continuing to say the big leaders of that regime are authorized and bona fide. And one child recently wrote, ex-child, that Bhakti Vikas Swami shouldn't be in charge of a peanut because he obviously does not understand how children need to be treated. So this is a person Hanuman is promoting and supporting, and others are supporting and promoting. They think, again, everyone else is bogus except Bhakti Vikas Swami. No, he's a big part of the scheme. He supports the whole GBC Guru process. He has supported the bogus appointment. He has supported the Guru reform, which voted in gurus. He is one of the people who was voted into that system. So to sum up then, this is simply another example of a person who is trying any other way of fixing things other than the right way. The right way to fix the mess in ISKCON is to bring everything back to the way ISKCON was run when Prabhupada was here. If you want to bring ISKCON back to its original state, you have to start by establishing the original worship that was originally established by the original Acharya of ISKCON. You can't deviate, you can't change, you can't put in another Acharya and another system, because we see what happens, and Hanuman himself is recording what's happening. You have Sahaja influence, and this influence, and that influence, and the other. You get all kinds of bogus deviations going on, left, right, and center. You have to take it back to the original point. That is the way to fix ISKCON. In any case, reviving the worship of Sridhar Swami is never going to happen. Nobody is ever going to reestablish him as the Acharya of ISKCON. That will simply not happen under any circumstances. He is gone, he's finished, he's out of the picture, and he is no longer relevant to anything that's going on in ISKCON. Except that he was a big supporter of all the corruption. He was a GBC member who helped along all the bogus deviations that were going on the whole time. He supported all the bogus GBCs as being gurus. He supported their documents, their position papers. He supported them going to various authorities and advisors who turned out to be deviant, or turned out to be against Prabhupada, or turned out to be taking disciples from Prabhupada's mission, and so many other things. He supported all these different things, and he was a big supporter of Tamal. And Tamal, by the way, is the main suspect in the poisoning of Prabhupada and so many other deviations. So Tamal had to be sued. He had to be sued in Dallas for creating a lot of child molesting in and around ISKCON. And Sridhar was his right-hand man and supporter. So we should not be promoting the supporters of the regime of Tamal and these false gurus. And we therefore should not be supporting Sridhar Swami. We should be supporting Prabhupada. So when Hanuman says our idea is confusing, let's worship the Acharya, no, his idea is confusing. We need to support the people who supported all the corruption for all these years. Those are the people we need to get behind and support and reestablish. That's not going to happen, and that is the same problem the Gaur Govinda people are having. He was a big supporter of the GBC. Is his revival happening? No, it's not, and it won't. The only revival that's happening is our revival, which is reviving the worship of Prabhupada. That is reviving. It will continue to revive, and that is the process. And if you want to get ISKCON back on track, and you want to make ISKCON great again, that is the only way it's going to happen, and it is happening, and it will happen with or without these people. Hari Bol.